Dear friends, dear colleagues, my name is Olga Morozan, and today I would like to share with you some useful tips how you could promote gender equality in the English language classes. First of all, I'd like to invite you to take, together with me, a small quiz. Let's play. So this quiz will help us to identify or to find out more interesting things about what is gender equity, to find out the definition between equality and equity, and to find out some facts and statistics regarding the situation of gender equality and equity in the world. So let's play. Play now. What is the difference between gender and sex? They are the same, they are completely different, they are overlap. I think this is C. Let's try. Correct. And here is the explanation. Both refer to being male or female, but are used differently. Sex refers to biological differences, while gender refers to social or cultural ones. Gender equality will end discrimination against women and girls. Next question. Who does gender inequality affect the most? Women in the poorest countries, children, women and girls. Okay, I think maybe C. Correct. So all the women are affected by the discrimination, all the girls. Next question. Is there a link between women's decision-making at home and children's nutritional status? Of course, yes. And here is the explanation. Why is that so? Because women who influence decisions at home prioritize nutrition. And we have some statistics here. Does a mother's lack of education affect her children's educational prospects? I think yes. Correct. Why is it so? And here is the explanation. Women who went to school encourage their children to do the same. The next question. Why are girls more likely than boys to miss out on secondary education in the developing world? And there are 4 variants. Because of high school fees, only boys go to school. Many adults and girls are expected to help out at home. Child marriage restricts girls' mobility and freedom. All of the above. I think here might be all of the above. Let's see, correct. So, and the high fee and the household duties and also many other cultural beliefs and practices that infringe the right to education of girls. Okay, what is the proportion of girls in the developing world who get married before they are 18 years old? Okay, about 1/3 or 25%. I don't know, let's try. Correct, so about 1/3 of the girls. About 1/3 of women were married before 18. Globally, 36% of women aged, so 2024, I think it's from age 24, were married or in union before they turned 18, most commonly in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, next question. Who is at the greatest risk of contracting HIV? So I think these are women. Correct. They face a greater risk for physiological and social reasons, and carries the gender discrimination, a lack of education, increase their vulnerability in this situation. Good. Do men and women earn the same amount of money for equal work? Of course, no. Women, no. Men earn more. Yes, correct. And here is the statistic saying that 20% lower women earn less than men. Okay, most of the time when both men and women work, they share the housework equally. Women and girls do most of the housework and men do most of the housework. I think this is B. Correct. Yeah. Next question. Which strategies have proved to help women become more socially and economically empowered? Okay, women working together to challenge gender discrimination, more income sources for women, improved access to education. I really want you to stress on that, and all of the above. I think all of the above. Correct. Where education is the general, is the most valuable asset. Which African country elected its first woman president in 2005? As far as I remember, that was Liberia. I'm not sure. Yeah, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected president of Liberia. Yes. During the war, who is at greatest risk of being killed? Civilian women and children, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And you have, it is estimated that 90% of the casualties of armed conflict are civilians, and that 80% of these are women and children. How often are women present in international peace negotiations? Practically never. Correct? Yeah. Yeah. So basically we end up the quiz, and we found out many interesting things about that. We strengthened our knowledge about gender equality and the situation of gender and the women in the world, in particular related to the education. This is a good example and exercise that you could do together with your students in order to, well, starting talking about gender equality in general. Okay, so we move on. So let's move to the next slide. So what is gender equality in education? Boys and girls experience same advantages or disadvantages in attending schools. First of all, they have the access to education. So they have, besides the, so each child has the right to education. So here is the access. The state offers the access to education with no limitations and no, I mean, regardless gender, social status, ethnic belongings. So, and they offer same advantages or disadvantages in attending school, and this is for boys and girls. Same approaches in teaching methods. So, teacher uses the same teaching methodology and techniques in order to teach either boys or girls. Gender neutral curriculum and academic orientation, all of which aim to ensure equal learning achievement and subsequent life opportunities. So the children, so boys and girls, will have equal learning achievement, equal learning opportunities, and based on that they will achieve equal learning achievements, basically. Of course not equal, but what does it mean equal in this situation? Because it doesn't mean that the marks will be equal, but the equal achievement due to their the equal opportunities offered by the education, and of course after that life opportunities. So that means all of them, they will study foreign language, all of them they will study math, all of them they will study Romanian language, let's say, or biology, and because of that they will have equal life opportunities because they will have a good preparation or the same preparation. Good. So let's move on. Who talks more in your EFL classes? Because this exercise basically, and the definition explained you that or showed that in during the classes, the teachers have to make sure that he or she offers to boys and girls in the equal manner the learning opportunities, and uses the teaching methodology and resources that will provide this opportunity and improve the classroom, or organizes the classroom management and the classroom environment, which will offer such an opportunity. Have a look on this picture and pay attention to the reaction of the boy, and the one that raises who raises his hand, and the reaction of girls. So you could see the faces of the girls. So very often we have in the class and during our lessons people or students that monopolizes the discussion and the conversation and the participation. And as for my class, those were some boys. They usually, wanted each time when there was a question, usually one or two boys, they were always raising their hands and wondering or wanting, preferring and asking to answer. How often do you have such situation? I'm just wondering, have you had such situation as I had, or was it different? And in case you had such a situation, why did it happen? So think about this. First of all, everything that we are doing in the classroom is very much defined by gender stereotypes and everything which is connected to the education. So I would like to invite you to watch shortly this video, which will explain.
As children, there is no limit to what we believe we can become. But as girls and boys, we are steered in different directions growing up. This happens because of what we call gender stereotypes, traditional ideas about what boys and girls can or should do. They may not always be obvious, but stereotypes are everywhere, and they start to follow us from our earliest days in the toy store and continue to influence us when choosing subjects at school. For instance, girls are expected to be good at arts and humanities, while boys are led towards maths and science. When we come across the same stereotypes again and again, they begin to feel natural and start to shape our preferences and career paths. More men go into better paid jobs in the science, technology, engineering and mathematics field, and women tend to choose teaching and social work professions. Acknowledging gender stereotypes and their consequences is the first step towards breaking the mold, so that we build our lives based on our own choices.
So this is an excellent video clip that proves how stereotypes and community stereotypes or social stereotypes could influence the decision of the boys and girls, and in particular related to their future career. So with a girl that is offered the expectation or is expected by the family and the school that she's going to become, I don't know, to have a humanitarian profile, whether the boy will be more oriented towards science. So these, of course, in very many situations limits the opportunities of children and both boys and girls, and in very many situations restricts the development that is given by the nature, basically. So nowadays there is a tendency to try to avoid or try to limit this expectation and to try to acknowledge and be aware of these stereotypes and avoid using them and being exposed under this, in teachers' personal judgment and in students' personal judgment, being determined by these stereotypes. So what is some interesting facts about why gender equality is important? First of all, of the weakest students in the 3 core subjects that PISA assesses, PISA, this is the international evaluation of the mathematics, reading, science, literacy competencies, and of the weakest students in the 3 core subject of this assessment, 6 out of 10 are boys. So 6 out of 10 children that have the weakest results for 3 core subjects. So these are the boys. Also, statistics show that 80% of high schools dropouts are boys. 80% of all classroom discipline problems are boys. 70% of students with learning disabilities are boys. 80% of students who are behaviorally disordered are also boys. And 80% of students who are on medication for ADHD, so this is the deficit of the attention, and also alcohol dependency, are boys. So there is, this data really shows that something is wrong in education, that when it comes to teaching boys, or you'll see that even in teaching girls. So something is wrong, because we were talking with her and discussing with a group of teachers about this phenomenon, how the teacher, or how education, how, I don't know, the school could provide the gender equality and gender balance in education. And even though people do realize that there is a discrepancy, or there is the difference between the way of perceiving and teaching and I don't know, transferring and sending the materials and getting the students, the boys and the girls involved in different learning activities, they do not do any differentiation, because it's, I don't know, because of the standardized probably techniques and procedures. So let's see what it comes to girls. Also about boys, sorry. What is specific for their, I don't know, way of learning? Boys do less homework. Yes, they're very pragmatic and they don't do less homework than girls, comparing to girls. They are very much into playing games. So they really like strategic games, and they like developing strategic thinking. They very rarely read books in their spare time. You are not going to see a boy, I mean, reading when it is, I mean, of course, this is, you could say, and that, yeah, but I have a child, that a boy that he's reading very well. So in this situation, it's like these statistics proves per general, so statistically worldwide. Boys are more physical, boys need more space to learn, and boys are not as good at reading and writing as girls. When it comes to girls, girls produce more drama, so they are more dramatic and more artistic. They tend to multitask better, so and we know because they have developed left brain and right brain. Girls will write with more details. This is more specific to observing all the details in their perceptions. Girls struggle when they ask to think like scientists, and they apply what they learned, and they very much face difficulties and apply what they learned at school when it comes to science. When it comes to abilities related to math, so girls lack confidence in their abilities, mathematic abilities, and parents are less likely to pursue mathematics-related career for girls. So they do not see any mathematics career. Very rare they could see it. And you know, there is everything that I've mentioned here. I've already mentioned. It's all connected to psychological development and specific of boys, because we have like the left brain and the right brain. So the left is more specific for the men, for the boys that is more analytical, more critical thinking. And the girls is the right one, which is developed through artistic, through language, through creativity. So it's more specific for them. Okay. So what is the task of the school in this situation? So for this situation is taking into account the peculiarities of boys and girls. So for the boys, the parents and teachers, they can help boys. And of course, even though they don't like to read, so it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be involved in the reading activities, but they like to have the choice and to find the option for their reading. So encourage boys to find different, encourage boys to read, but the source of reading should be theirs. Also, sometimes the boys should be given the time for video gaming, but insisting they have to do their homework, of course. As for the girls, parents and teachers, they do have to provide opportunities for independent problem solving, for them to take decisions and to, take advantage of that. Okay, so how we as teachers could do that? First of all, we have to think about developing classroom learning environment which will be gender equitable and which will provide or ensure the gender equity. How you could do that? There are some of the tips or strategies that are recommended by several researchers and several resources. Hold equal academic and behavioral expectation of all students, no matter whether this is a girl or a boy. So have heard that one of teacher said, okay, so so I do understand that you are the girl and you are struggling with that, but you have at least to try with this something. So at the very beginning, he or she, the teacher, imposes some expectations that which are lower compared to the boys, and this is not correct. So the expectations towards students should be offered and given equal. Together with students, establish a set of rules or classroom norms for students from the very beginning. So for them just to understand that you could ask the students and explain that you are trying to promote the gender equity, and let's think about some of the norms and rules that the class should follow in order to, not to violate the rights of either of boys or girls. During the classroom try and during the lessons and educational process, just follow the rules and try to follow these rules. Group work versus individual work, and very important, this is project-based learning, but here trying to mix up the groups, and in particular when it comes to mixing up to gender mix, boys and girls together. And you could see the picture here, and I intentionally posted it here for you just to see that this is not the right way it should be. So you could see that the girls are working in projects in groups, boys are working together and girls separately. So this is not the right one. It should be a mixed. So it should be a mixed group, boys and girls at maximum possible. So how you could set up, or how could you arrange the classroom? Have classroom seating that enables equal participation. What does it mean? You could see here two pictures here. So number one, this is picture number one. You could see picture number one. So here is the situation when usually, so just consider one idea. The teachers tend to interact the most with students who sit in the front. So this is like 10-20% of the class. So usually a teacher prefers interacting. Boys usually prefer and sitting in front, but it depends on the class, of course. If there is some of the students that, this is the high school, usually the boys prefer sitting in the back. But the idea is just you have to arrange the classroom in such a way that will present opportunities for everybody to interact. So you could see here for the teachers to interact. Here is one example. So girl, boy, here boy, girl. So you could see there is a mixed and varied arrangement and setting of the classroom. Then compare it here when half of the class, almost half, the first part is male and the second part is female. So this is not a good one. Prefer mixing them up. And when it comes to the small classes and small groups, what I mean is just small grades, usually the teacher arranges. When it comes already to high school, so the students usually prefer sitting themselves by themselves. So here is the role of the teacher also to maintain this proportion, and in case it is observable, noticeable that it is not okay, it is not well arranged, like it is not gender balanced, the setting and the arrangement of the places of the seating of the students, so better for the teacher to interfere here. Support and encourage both female and male learners to be class leaders, possibly having one girl and one boy as co-leaders. So this is a wonderful practice. Display posters on walls that portray female and male characters in equal manners and in an equal number. So if you have, like, I don't know, speaking about EFL, English as a foreign language, so more English countries, leaders. You have Washington, you have Lincoln. So besides that, there has to be also some writers, let's say, or famous people, Margaret Thatcher, let's say, that you will write there, and it will be also posted then on the wall next to famous male leaders. Avoid students doing classroom chores tasks based on traditional gender roles. Boys carrying heavy things and girls cleaning up. So this is a wonderful tip. Yeah. When it comes to gender equitable teaching, because sitting and setting and the classroom environment, this is one, but also it's not enough. The second one is you have to do, it's to ensure and to revise your teaching strategy. And if you have this situation that we discussed with the boy always raising hands and the girls being shy and limited to express themselves, just because you have some monopolizers in the group. So you better start counting when you ask someone, you ask people and pupils to answer and to express themselves. You start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. You start counting the number of people and you wait a little bit, number of hands of the students that raise their hands. So don't hurry up to ask the first that raised the first hand. Wait a little bit and to have at the end few hands, and you could see and you could control and you could monitor the way you previously asked whether it was the boy or the girl. Keep a reflective journal if you prefer writing. Make a chart or reflective journal of how you assess and how you call students for the answer. Make a chart of gender interactions and participation. You could tick, let's say you have the name, you have the list of the students, and you could tick who you divide them into boys and girls, and you could tick in order to see how often and how fair is the arrangement, or is the flow on the diagram, let's say, of the number of calls and you ask the student to answer. Alternate between calling male and female names. So just sometimes you just do not ask who would like to answer, but you just call the names, and not each time all the person, each one person. But if there is this time is that you call the name of the boy, the next one will be for the girl. Invite peer observers in case you could ask someone, your friend to come and your colleague to come and to observe and to see whether you follow this rule, or you just video record. Sometimes you could do that in order to see and to watch it, rewatch it, but it's for the internal purpose, of course, for your personal purpose, not to be disseminated and share it online. Give both female and male students equally complex responses to the answers. So, what does it mean? This is offering feedback. So sometimes in the research proves that there is a difference between the way teachers offer feedback to female students and to male students. So try to make equal complex responses. As for the students, do not to sense the difference between gender. Provide equal praise to both male and female students. So offering praise equally. Make sure you are giving the appropriate nonverbal cues when both male and female are talking. So control your nonverbal body, nonverbal communication, leaning forward, walking away. So this is very important as well. When it comes to body language, move around the room or to different location of class as you speak. So do not prefer just, of course, you could tell that if you have only the classroom made of 2 rows, no matter of that, you could just move up in the middle, in between the rows, and then move in front to the left, to the right. So try to move around the room and to different location of classes for the students to have your and to feel you. Um, Also be aware and ready to intervene when male students say insults or put down to female students. You know, their students and their kids very often, sometimes they are very cruel. So in this situation, you just ask them and you feel that someone, I mean, is just bullying a particular person. So you just interfere, whether this is a girl or this is a boy. Equal offenses deserve equal punishments, whether the perpetrator is male or female, no matter. So you have to have some strict rules. Return to the remarks of students who start to speak but are interrupted or who drop their point before finishing. You know, probably just because we have to encourage and we have to diminish the monopolizers, say, controlling or of the answers and responses of the students. We have to encourage the silent students to talk. And in the situation when some students started to talk and to express his points of view, and another one interrupted. So in this situation, you just return to the remarks of students who started to speak and ask the students to finish up his or her point of view and idea. Give students the space to finish their thought and be aware of students whose comments are being ignored. So try to mention if somebody said something and you probably in the discussion you just missed the comment and the person was ignored, so he would not prefer repeating or doing the same the next time. Emphasize male or female students' comments by putting them on board. So that's important. Of course, do not try to compare like who said whether this is male or female, but just each time when somebody speaks that, and in particular, if you see that this is the person that hasn't spoken ever, so in this situation, you would be better to emphasize and to write some ideas expressed by the students on the blackboard. What should be the teacher and student interaction? Use gender neutral language. Use female names and pronouns an equal amount as men's class. So exercises or text. Use she or him, or he or she or they. Avoid telling guys. So I know some of my colleagues prefer telling guys or folks. So this is very American style, I know that, but if instead of that, use, so address like everybody, everyone, or he or she or they. Some of the tips are very useful tips for smaller children. Use gender neutral language when referring to children. In particular, I'm speaking about primary school children. Instead of saying, choose a boy, say, choose a friend. You also, this technique or this tool, this tip could be useful also for the upper classroom. So instead of saying like, choose a boy or choose a girl, you say, choose a friend. Monitor your own interactions with the children. We tend to comfort girls more and send boys on their way earlier. Avoid stereotyping children. Example, boys are noisy and loud, girls are calm and sweet. When reading books where the tiger or bear is often him and the butterfly or bird is she, change the gender around. Alternatively, use the gender neutral term, shim. This is an interesting idea, I really like it. So instead of saying like him or she, you don't know, and you paraphrase and you use it, shim. Always use non-gender specific terms when referring to occupation. Chairperson, flight attendant, but not, let's say, stewardess and steward provide a wide range of diverse stories about the gender and in non-stereotype roles. If such books are limited, change he to she, so girls have a leadership role. So good. So we discussed with you about how you could develop and how you could improve your classroom setting and the learning environment. Another one we discussed about some tips how you could improve your teaching strategies. And the third one is how you could improve the teaching materials, the books and the materials. First of all, you have to think about how equitable are the teaching materials that you are teaching. You could find many situations like this, and in the books you could see boys are policemen and girls are maids. Boys can eat and girls can cook. Girls have dolls, boys have trucks. Boys invent things, girls use what boys invent. So these are the few examples only, but you could see many of these examples like that. In case you feel that their book doesn't, and the reading materials that you have and their book that you have doesn't follow all does not ensure the gender equity in such a way, you have to supplement with additional materials. And you could even discuss with students about these differences when you see the picture that doesn't match the reality, or it follows and it matches the stereotype. For example, you could say boys can eat and girls can cook. So asking the students and developing the discussion whether all the girls, boys can eat. What about the girls? Can the boys also can cook? So you are not going to change the book itself, but you are going to improve her content by discussing and also by finding probably some alternatives or additional materials, and making sure that additional materials could match the gender equality standards. Okay, so ask yourself, and here is some materials in curricular checklist. Are the materials and resources used by you or your students free from gender stereotypes? Do the teaching and learning materials portray girls and boys with equal prominence, respect, and potential? Does the curriculum reflect the needs and life experience of both females and males? Does the curriculum promote peace and equality for boys and girls regardless of their race, class, disability, religion, ethnic background? The recent curriculum and the curriculum that was developed this year and the last year, so they are trying to follow the gender equality and all this regardless, all this condition regardless their race, class, disability, religion, ethnic background. However, if you feel that the materials and the books, they do not feel it, do not match to the curriculum, or you could sense that you would add something good, you would improve, and you would prefer adding some of the elements, so feel free to do that. So the curriculum is the core, is the core of learning, of teaching, but you could add and supplement the content and enrich the content with some additional materials. How you could improve your materials. Ensure that males and females are depicted equally in class materials. So one more time, that doesn't mean that you have to change the book, because the book is printed at it is a national level. You are going just to discuss with students, and you will explain that, you will make them understand and making aware that the picture does not reflect the reality. So, or it follows the stereotype. Ensure that the theme, subject, and pictures used in class materials are relevant to the life experience of both female and male students. Ensure that female and male students are not just depicted according to stereotypes, and you have to ensure gender balance of authors. So that is very important. If you come up with a particular book and you recommend it for reading, make sure that the authors will be female and male as well, so different books. Supplement English as a foreign language text by including writing or work by or about women. Cite women as well as men as authorities about various topics. Adapt your materials when necessary to include more images and stories about women. So when it comes to industry, to science, very many things in technology, you will find stories about men. In such a way, you will discuss about men as well, and after that, you will supplement with some additional information about women in order to balance this experience. And for the girls and boys, either for boys and girls, to recognize potential for their growing. So when you recommend a particular book for reading, because we do recommend books for reading. So in this situation, you have to ask yourself some question. Are girls portrayed as strong characters? Are girls daring, brave, and smart? Are girls interested in science, technology, engineering, math, outdoors, adventuring? Are girls resilient problem solvers? Are boys portrayed as kind and caring? Are boys portrayed as nurturing and loving? Are boys respectful to all genders? And are boys able to and encouraged to express their feelings? So when you take one particular book, you do not look only at the language itself, which is presented there in the book, but also to whether these gender equality elements are present. So these questions could, and this is a checklist you could tick in order to see whether if the multiple questions are ticked as yes, then do recommend this book for reading. Good. So we discussed with you about different ways and strategies and tips you could use in order to improve 3 elements that will ensure gender equity and equality in the classroom. So first is changing and improving the educational environment, so the classroom environment. The second is changing teaching strategies. The third will be changing or improving materials that you are having. And how you could do that. Another topic is how you could, what kind of activities you could do together with the students in order to the concrete activities in order to not only to talk about, not only to ensure gender balanced condition, but also to teach them gender equality. So here is one example: primary school activities. You have a so let's say Venn diagram, and you could ask the girls and boys together, so the students to write all the descriptions of all the qualities that fit to boys and fit to girls. And you'll see that they will have, they could do it individually, and after that they could do it all together. So the girls and boys are being in pairs. And after that you'll see that they will find out that the girls could be funny and boys could be funny, calm. So all of the qualities they will identify, they will match both to girls and both to boys. Another activity might be, so here is, you could, if you click on this, on the link, you will be, you will be guided to the link. If you click on the picture, and you will be guided to the link, directed to the link that you will find the description of the lesson plan. So the idea of the lesson plan is to ask the students, first of all, to draw a firefighter, police officer, a nurse. So they are going to write and to draw, and I'm sure when it comes to the nurse, all will draw a woman. When it comes to a firefighter and police officer, will be the man, because of the stereotyping. And then you could offer, so you present this poster, and you discuss that the nurse could be a man, and the firefighter could be a woman, a teacher could be a man, and you could ask them to recall from their memory the situation, or whether they have some relatives that they are firefighters, let's say, and they are women. Hairdressers, the same. Mechanic, a woman. Doctor might be the man and a woman. makeup artists as well, so you could see the pictures and you could discuss with them about how these pictures just defeat their stereotypes. After that, the second day, you could invite a male nurse and let's say, and a female firefighter or police officer. You could invite into the classroom and have them talk about their jobs and unpack the children's drawing and expectation about the visitors, basically. Another activity is that you need to develop a growth mindset of the children. So these will be the hearts of different colors. Those will be some of the badges. You could cut these badges and offer to students these stickers used as badges to recognize achievements that the students have done, no matter their gender. So children could create a poster or set aside a page in their workbook and aim to collect all 15 badges for their achievement. I ask for help when I need it, let's say. I get better at things when I practice. So this is for growing their mindset and their understanding their achievements. Another one might be display the complete poster or cut up and stick onto cards for children to collect, share, display, and use as flashcards. Each day or each week, children could choose the statement they link best suits them and explain why. So it depends on you. You have to be very creative and think how you could you could use these stickers in order to develop this self-accomplishment, the sense of self-accomplishment, either for boys and girls. An interesting quiz, which will be, of course, not for the primary level students, but already for gymnasium and higher, for high school students. This is, you could ask the students to complete the quiz together with them. And if you click on this, you will be guided to the quiz, which is quite interesting, and will explain the situation of how much do you know about gender equality in the world today. Another one is how much do you know about gender equality across 5 world regions. So let's say you could start with the first, and after that you could move to the second one. So let's try at least just to see what do we have. Of the 5 regions covered by, so SDG Gender Index, so this is Sustainable Development Goals for 2030 connected to gender equality, which 2 regions have the highest overall average index? Europe, North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean, so Sub-Saharan Africa and Europe and North America. Okay, let me try this one. And it is going to present you the right question. This is incorrect because Europe and North America, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and it will explain you why that's so. So you just follow the one by one items, and this is a good way to explore and to learn many things together with students. Another activity would be this lesson plan, which is called Quiz and Swap. So yeah, I'm going to click on this. Okay, so the students are invited to watch 3 movies. The story of human rights, where the human rights, and in particular related with the focus with gender equality is present, explaining gender equality nowadays. And gender equality means empowering women and girls. Yeah. A wonderful movie developed by UN Women. Gender equality, when it speaks about violence and impacts, what is the impact in the world, and discrimination against women. So speaking about Malala's story, and then they have, the students receive some quizzes, or the quiz, and you could see here is the the cards, which should be cut. This will be the front part and that will be the back part. So each student will receive one card, and they will need to talk and will move around the classroom and to talk and to share the question and of course discuss the findings. So if after several rounds, so they could switch the cards and they could discover and discuss other topics and other questions. Okay, so here is one example of the lesson plan. Another one is the lesson plan, which is a project. And yeah, so from where I stand, it is called. So with the Emma Watson, you could see, so she proposes the world's largest lesson, within the world's largest lesson, a project where she proposes to measure the level of discrimination or the level of gender equity and equality in different countries, and then just to keep track on the situation and to compare with other countries. Yeah. So if you click on this movie, so you could hear her talking and explaining about taking an invitation to take part in the project for gender equality. Let's see.
Hello, I'm Emma Watson, and I stand for gender equality. Last year, world leaders at the UN signed up to the Global Goals for Sustainable Development and committed to achieving gender equality by 2030. That's a huge ambition. So if we're really going to achieve it, we need to start right now making changes every day. One thing I think that would make a real difference is if all girls and boys grow up feeling that they can achieve anything. And one way to make this happen is if everyone has strong role models to look up to in their communities, showing them what's possible. It's easy to assume that this is already happening in many parts of the world, but is it really? How often do we stop and really think about the balance of men and women making decisions and doing the jobs that most influence our lives? Are we really moving towards an equal world where there's an equal number of men and women who work as doctors, newsreaders, politicians, police, bosses, judges, and all those sorts of things? The only way to create change is to know the facts, to know where we're starting from. So I'm here to ask you to take part in a really interesting project to measure where things actually stand with gender equality where you live. Here it is. It's really easy to do, and if you collect enough data, we'll be able to create a map of the world that shows what jobs men and women are doing. If you do this, we can find out the truth and really get to work making things fair, equal, and better. Thanks for listening, and a huge thanks if you take part. It means a lot to me. The data you collect can help change the world.
Yeah, so this is an appeal from her to all the teachers in order to get involved in this project. So if you click on the link, yeah, you could find the description of the project and the lesson plan in where you prepare, you find the learning outcomes, you see the length of their lesson, the target year or how old the student should be, and step 1, step 2, step 4, you could find out at the end the description and the forms that she was talking about, yeah, the stories, yeah, here the forms, how do you calculate, so the current country, the flag, and so on and so forth, and where do you insert this data that you collect. That is one example of the lesson plan. Another one is if you click on this link, you could find a lot of other interesting lesson plans that you could use, you could apply within your classroom, and in order to teach gender equality. So we are not going to click on each of them. So you could take your time and to explore all of these resources. Lesson plan, the world is not equal equal, is that fair? Everybody wins when girls can stay in school. So many more mission, gender equality, many more interesting resources and useful resources for you. And also the quotes: if you stand for equality, then you are a feminist, and so on and so forth. Good. We're moving forward. Other lesson plans that you could use in your school, in your classroom. This is proposed by Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media. So there is also a wonderful collection, a rich collection of lesson plans you have to explore and by yourself, and just to see whether you could adapt and use it. Like, do TV and film encourage bullying in school? What is the difference between the previous that I showed about world largest, the world largest lesson, and this one? The ones were related mostly on gender equality, and that is connected to media. So gender in media, the equality promotion of gender within the media. So feel free to explore. Yeah, wonderful books that I found. It is called Gender Responsive Pedagogy, a Teacher's Handbook and Creative Supporting Learning Environment for Girls and Boys. Feel free to read these two resources, and you will change your vision and your understanding what does gender equality mean and how you personally could do it, because it's not the matter only, of course you have to start with yourself when it comes to your classes, but this is changing the philosophy, this is changing your point of view and observing it in everything you are doing. If the students feel that you are the ones that supports, you will be the change, and you will transmit this feeling and understanding, and you will have your impact in reducing this stereotyping and cliches and labeling when it comes to gender, and avoid discrimination that there is so much in our community, in our culture as well, with women working and doing only house chores and housework, and men earning money. So unfortunately, things are changing, and nowadays there is a tendency to observe that. And there is an interesting experiment that I would like to share, and I do invite you to watch it from scratch at the beginning. So this is a story, an experiment when small kids were just dressed up, boys into the dresses of girls, and the one girl was dressed into the clothes of a boy. Nobody recognized that they are boys and girls, so they were looking like the girl was looking like the boy, and the boy was looking like the girl, and volunteers, nurses, were invited to come and to play with them. And it's interesting. Let me show you just a few sequences, and you will see what's going on.
Look at this. Look at this. Do you like a dolly? She'll go for the dolly. There's a good girl. You're a good little girl, aren't you, Sophie? Look, what does this say? Sweet dreams. Sweet dreams. Look at this, Sophie. Meow, meow. I think she liked that pink dolly the best.
If I were to tell you actually that Sophie is Edward,
Well,
does that change anything?
I maybe thought, oh, this is a little girl, so I have to give her little girl things.
Hello. 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 Hello.
What's this one? Oh, what's that one do? Is that a robot? What about this? Oh, you like that one. What does this one do? Oliver.
You've gone for, you could say, boy toys for this boy.
Possibly in my subconscious, but for me, I was just going for what was around me, but in fact my subconscious was automatically playing a trick on me. That I was...
If I tell you that he is actually a girl.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. I suppose it's because of the stereotype.
And then that changed your behaviour towards the child.
It did.
And your behaviour was quite directive. 1, 2, 3.
So you could see that the stereotypes really guide us and very much influence our attitude and behavior, which we have to understand, to realize, and to start fighting against it. Because as a teacher, education is very much influenced by traditional and cultural stereotypes connected to gender, which very often limit the opportunities for either boys and girls. So I do encourage you to do that, and I do invite you to accept this challenge and start promoting the gender equality in the classroom. Thank you very much for the presentation, for listening, and for the participation for your participation in this webinar. I really hope that it was useful for you.